Hello everybody, welcome back. One of the big preoccupations I find students face is to do with guitar exercises. Which ones to practice, where to find them, and basically what to do with them. And you get this weird feeling of being overwhelmed sometimes by the number of exercises out there, but also underwhelmed by the fact that by the time you play maybe 1, 2, 3, or 4, or 5 of them, you go back and you're like, I don't even remember what the first exercise was. And you feel that you just skimmed the surface technically of all these things that are thrown at you. Might be here on YouTube, maybe even on this channel, might be on books, such as, whatever your favorite one is. Maybe it's one of these two, which I'll plug shamelessly now, just because I do think they would be great companions for your technical improvement. But whatever it is, we have to learn how to make the most out of any exercise we find. It doesn't even matter really which one it is, but how deep we can go. And so today I would like to show you how to take any very simple idea for an exercise and go really, really, really deep with them, so that by the time we're done working with them and we move on to another one, all the benefits of that exercise are now within us, within the fingers and our ear and our brain and our body, so that they will be available to us, those skills, whenever we play. And that's how we improve. We build upon the previous step, and that's very important. We don't want to get confused by this big fog of technique that we can never kind of grasp. So to do that, we're going to use two very simple ideas that which you will find in pretty much any book or resource, and we'll stick to some simple alternate picking exercises. I don't know your level, so I don't want to get into really complex legato or tapping or sweep picking or anything like that, but feel free to apply any of this to wherever you are at the moment. So the first thing you might find very often is some kind of single string movement. We're going to keep it in C major, which is the easiest key, and we'll play this little lick. A very common exercise, and so what should we do with it? Well, first of all, I would play just as it is presented to me. At whatever speed I can really go into the technique. A consistent sound, a consistent pick attack, a consistent tone, a consistent volume. I really want to get the most out of it. So that's the first thing most people do, is they just run through exercises, whereas I suggest you go deep with it just the way it is. For example, is my picking consistent? The articulation, is it precise? Is it in time? Am I in tune? Am I doing weird bends that don't fit? For example, with the slide, am I hearing the slide? And if I'm hearing it, is it because I want to? Maybe I should try not hearing it. Okay, so that anybody listening wouldn't know that I'm sliding. So that's what I would do. I would go as deep as possible just with what I'm given. And this might make the life of the exercise from maybe 10 minutes to hours and hours and hours. Then, of course, there's the matter of speed, which we won't get into today. I play everything pretty slow. I don't want you to get dazzled and confused by speed itself, because speed comes from good practice. Okay, so let's say I'm done with it. I spent hours on it, more than most people would, and I really have it under my fingers. So now usually we'll move on to the next exercise. But what if we decide that no, we're going to squeeze every single little drop out of this exercise lemon, so to speak. And so the first thing I would do, of course, the most obvious, would be to move it to all strings. There must be a difference in feel and technique and adjustments from the first string to the sixth. Right? It has to feel different. There has to be some added difficulty, some adjustments I have to make. So I will do that on all strings. And I might have to spend a long time on each string to get it to sound just as good and to feel as good as it was on the first string, where I spent my hours on it. And I might not have to spend that many hours on the next strings, but it will require some attention. Like that, and I go through all the strings. I will spare you this for every exercise, but you get the idea. I will work on this as much as I have to. For example, the sixth string, I didn't like the last slide. I heard too much of a slide into the 13th fret, so I'll do it again. and this sounds more consistent to me, so I will practice this for a little longer. So that would be the first thing. Next, I would try to expand on the exercise in any way that I can. That depends on what the original exercise is. In this case, I find that playing only these 7 frets or 8 frets, I find it quite limiting, especially when I see that I have this long string here. And so I will look at the exercise and figure out that, oh, it's in C major. I'm playing only natural notes here. So I wonder what the full scale of C major would be on a single string. If I have to, I can write it down, or if I know my fretboard, I can figure it out. And so I would maybe try to go from the lowest possible note up to the highest with the same pattern, with the same basic DNA of the exercise. And that's what I would do. That's a very interesting way of practicing. I would have to work on my focus, on my attention span, because I can get distracted a lot easier when I'm playing 3 times as many notes. And then I would try to play faster, I would try to play cleaner, you know, everything still applies. And then I might wonder, what the 6th string or the 4th string or whatever string feels like. So I will go through all the strings again and do the whole thing. Now, how long will this take? You see, we're taking this little nucleus of an exercise and expand greatly upon it. Okay, so now that's pretty good. Now that I'm here, though, I'm wondering, okay, that's ascending. What would it be and feel like descending? Because if I'm improvising or soloing, I want to be able to go in both directions. So let me go back to the original exercise and then turn it around. So, or let's do... right? The opposite thing. Sorry, I just had to figure it out. I'm doing this as I'm doing it. So I haven't prepared it because I want you to see how I would do it in real time. Okay, so I'm going to reverse it. And that would be the original idea. I will work on it a little more because it sounds a bit sloppy to me. I'm pretty happy with it. I could work on the speed now, or I can just again work on the different strings, and then of course do it on the whole string. And then I could move to different strings, for now keeping the same fingering. Now, if you know your keys and your notes, you would notice that when I change strings and I keep the same fingering, I would be changing keys. So now we're going to focus on expanding even more by focusing just on that, on keys. And therefore, we'll think of C major as our starting point. Just because the exercise was in C major, you're free to do it any way you want. This is what I would do. I would now adjust the 6 strings, both ascending and descending, to fit the key, not the fingers. Okay, when I move the original exercise to other strings, the key is different because I'm now having sharps and flats depending on what string I fall into. So now let's, instead of focusing on the fingering itself, let's focus on the key. And I can go through all the strings, and by changing keys, I would actually be modifying my fingering, which will give me a different kind of workout. Let's check it out. Let me go back to the original idea on the first string. Right, I'm playing from A, B, C, D, E, and F. If I were to play the same fingering like we did before, I got an F sharp in the exercise, in the string. That means I'm in a different key, and I want to keep it to C major. So I want my F sharp to become F natural, and therefore look at the fingering. It's a different, slightly, but still different. If I move to the next string up, I have to do the same thing again. I don't want any flat or any sharp, so this will be the fingering. Right? And I can keep going on all strings. Some are repeat, some are slightly different, and some are the same. But you see how it goes. Now I can reverse it, and I can expand it to the whole string. All right, so let's say that I'm doing the second string in C major. This is what I would have to do. Sorry for the slide there, but you see where this is going. Then I have to do it on all strings again with different fingerings all the time. But now that I know how to do it in C major, what if I want to go through the circle of fifths and go through every key? I could do the first string again, but now play it in F major, which has a flat, and that's the B, and it will sound like this. To include that B flat, but then I go to B flat major, which has two flats, and it will have to be with both the B and the E flat. Of course, I play the whole thing. Now what if I go through all the keys, and what if I do it for every single string? You see how far you can take it. And this is just ascending. What if it's descending? And you know, we can still do more, but I think you get the idea. So that was just a little single string pattern. What if it's something a bit different? Let's work on a very common idea, that is to get two strings together and work on the pick across them. Maybe something like this. Just a common pattern. I think I showed you before. Okay, that's just a finger thing for now. So I will get into the minutiae of the pick, of how it feels, coordination, attack, articulation. I will make it sound as good as possible, just as it is. You know, as we said, always go deeper than you normally would, even with just a simple idea. Then I will say, okay, well, one thing I could do, of course, is to, instead of working on just a pair of string, work on all pairs. So I might start at the bottom and go sixth and fifth, right? And then fifth and fourth, and so on and so forth. When I say this, I actually mean take this as its own exercise. So again, go as deep as you can with it and then move on to the next pair. Of course, a lot of stuff you worked on a previous pair will come in very handy when you move down the strings, but still you find some new things you can work on. It's surprising how different the first two strings feel, even just than the fourth and third. And then we could decide that we want to try it in different areas of the neck. That's a very common thing. You want to be able to do the technique down here as well as up here. And then maybe I'll decide that I want to try and move chromatically up and down. Very nice, right? And I go all the way up, and this will test my stamina, my concentration, and my relaxation, because if I'm not relaxed, I won't be able to get here, and maybe even back. I might do that chromatically up and down on all strings. So that's a physical part, right? We're not worrying about the keys, we're just thinking of fingers, and we might try different fingerings, different combinations, or stranger ones, and so on. But we'll touch upon this actually when we start thinking about keys. So let's say that I look at the notes I'm playing, and again I realize that I'm playing natural notes. I'm playing B, C, D, E, F, G. So that puts me in a key where there's no sharps and no flats, which is kind of fine. And then again I wonder, what if I go through all my keys, and what would I find there? Well, first of all, if I just simply stick to C major, nothing else, just C major, and I start moving from one pair of strings to another, I'll find that my fingerings change dramatically. So if I do the top or the bottom, however you want to see it, sixth and fifth string, if I play this, I got two sharps, the C and the F on the 9th fret. Well, I only one natural note, so I would have to play C, D, E on A, 10, and 12, and then F, G, A on A, 10, and 12. Very different indeed. And when I go from 5th and 4th strings, that will be the fingering. And when I go down to the 3rd and 2nd, these are the notes, and 2nd and 1st. It's totally different, right? And so that's one great way of doing it, just stick to a key. Another way of doing it is to just stay on two strings, but adjust for the key. So if I'm here and I go to F major, I have to move the B natural to B flat, and automatically I'm in a different fingering with different difficulties, right? I have to move, stretch, and so forth. If I now go down to E flat major, my fingering changes again. And if I go to A flat major and so on and so forth, I will keep running into different fingerings. Now, what if I want to move it across the whole fretboard while staying in key? You see how I get all kinds of different fingerings. That's C major. What if I do G major? Well, the F now becomes sharp. And so on and so forth. So again, this is just an idea, but you see how far you can take anything. Now imagine your exercise guitar book and imagine doing this for every single exercise. It will make it last a lifetime and more. You can actually leave it to your children with a note saying, here's what you can do with all these exercises. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you did, please like, subscribe, and maybe share. It really does help. But no matter what you do, thank you so much for being there. If you'd like to join my Patreon, it's in the description below. You get a PDF for the whole thing. And I look forward to seeing you very, very soon.